Some betrayals don't bleed you all at once. They slice you open in the middle of the night and dare you to pretend you're not already dying. I jolted awake at 3:14 a.m. to the buzz of my phone on the nightstand, that sharp vibration that makes your stomach drop before your brain is even awake enough to know why. The room was dark, silent except for the faint hum of my ceiling fan. My heart beat harder than it should have. I reached blindly for the phone, the screen's glow cutting through the darkness like a blade. The message glared back at me. I'm at Jake's house. Come pick me up right now or we're done. I'm serious. You have 20 minutes. For a moment, my sleepy mind couldn't process the words. I blinked. Read it again. Felt the shock spread like ice water in my veins. Jake. Of course it was Jake. The same Jake she always swore was just a work friend. The same Jake who texted her at all hours of the night, with inside jokes that excluded me. The same Jake whose pregnant wife 7 months along smiled at me at company barbecues, rubbing her belly like she was carrying the world's most fragile treasure. And now Issa, my girlfriend, the woman I'd let into my home, my life, my trust, was at his house at 3 a.m. I sat up in bed, pulse hammering, hands trembling against the glow of the screen. It felt like the whole world had tilted sideways. My stomach churned. I could almost taste bile rising. I typed with fingers that felt heavy and foreign. We're done then. My thumb hovered before I hit send, but something inside me hardened. The kind of clarity that comes only in moments when your soul has had enough. I pressed the button. The response was instant. Are you serious right now? I'm giving you a chance to prove you care. My breath caught in my throat. The gall of it. The audacity of her standing in another man's house, his married house, while demanding that I somehow prove my love by fetching her like a lost child. I typed back with a coldness I didn't know I had in me. You're at another man's house at 3 a.m. What exactly am I supposed to prove? That I'll fight for you? That I'll compete for scraps of your loyalty? No. I'm good. Have Jake drive you home. The phone vibrated again, once, twice, over and over. Calls. I declined each one. She texted like fire catching dry leaves. One message after another. You're pathetic. A real man would come get his woman. I was just testing you and you failed. Jake treats me better than you ever did. I'm staying here tonight then. Hope you're happy. The last message came with a location pin. As if dropping proof of her betrayal like some power move would make me crumble. And that was the moment something clicked inside me. I stared at the map, the red pin stabbing Jake's address like an arrow into my chest. Then I did the one thing she didn't expect. I took a screenshot of the entire thread, my hands steadier now than they'd been all night. I found Bethany on Facebook, Jake's wife, the woman who was likely sleeping in that same house hours earlier, her swollen belly pressing against the mattress as she dreamed of a family she thought she had. My hands moved without hesitation. Your husband has my girlfriend at your house at 3 a.m. Thought you should know. I attached the screenshots. The location pin. Press send. The timestamp read 3:31 a.m. And then silence. A silence thick with rage and fear and a strange kind of freedom, like standing barefoot at the edge of a cliff, wind tearing at your hair, knowing you've already jumped. I lay back down, my chest still rising and falling too fast, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above me. My room felt different now, heavier somehow. But there was no taking it back. By 4:15 a.m., my phone was vibrating again, harder this time, almost skittering across the nightstand. I grabbed it with a sense of dread. The screen was nuclear. Issa, what did you do? Bethany is here. She's going crazy. I need somewhere to stay, please. I'm sorry, baby. Please. She's throwing my stuff outside. Her words came rapid fire, desperate. My pulse slowed in contrast. There it was. The shift. The moment when the person who thought they had all the power realizes the floor has been ripped out from under them. I didn't answer. I turned my phone on silent, placed it face down on the nightstand, and pulled the blanket back over my body. For the first time in months, maybe years, I let myself drift back to sleep without guilt pressing down on my chest. I woke again to light pressing through the blinds, sharp and merciless. For a second, I thought it had all been a dream. That text, my shaking hands, the nuclear option I'd chosen in the dark. But then I turned my phone over. 89 unread messages. 52 missed calls. 16 voicemails. The screen looked like a crime scene. The messages at the top were Issa's, of course. You ruined everything. Bethany's divorcing Jake. I'm homeless because of you. Please, baby, just talk to me. Then came the rage. You're pathetic. You destroyed my life. I hate you. I hate you. Mixed in were Jake's frantic words. Bro, what the hell? You destroyed my marriage. She was just drunk. It wasn't what it looked like. Answer me. And then numbers I didn't recognize. Issa's friends, maybe, or people she'd recruited into her little army. Real men don't act like this. You're disgusting. Pick up your phone. She needs you. But the one that made me pause was Bethany's. Thank you. 2 words. Simple quiet. A lifeline in the chaos. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen, my chest tightening. For months, I'd carried suspicion in silence. Every late-night text Issa brushed off, every just a friend smile, every time she turned her phone face down on the table. I told myself I was paranoid, jealous, unfair. But Bethany's words cracked something open in me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. The voicemails were a twisted soundtrack of desperation. Issa's sobs, Jake's fury, Diane's, Issa's mother's, sharp voice demanding explanations. I didn't listen to them all. I couldn't. Instead, I showered. Let the water pound over me until my skin flushed pink. Watched the steam curl against the bathroom mirror. Tried to breathe through the weight pressing on my ribs. By the time I stepped out, my phone was buzzing again. I almost didn't look. But curiosity won. Issa again. Bethany came home early from her shift. She walked in while we were on the couch. She found my stuff. She's throwing everything outside. I need you. Please come get me. I closed my eyes, pressed the towel to my face. Images I didn't want. Bethany's swollen belly, her nurse's scrubs, the betrayal painted across her features as she walked into her own living room, crowded my mind. And still, I didn't respond. The hours crawled. I made coffee, poured it black, sat at my kitchen table staring at the cup like it held answers. By noon the knock came. Hard, insistent. I froze. For a second, I thought it was Bethany herself, come to confront me, to scream at me for being part of this nightmare. But when I opened the door, Issa stood there. Her mascara was smudged, hair wild, cheeks blotchy from crying. And behind her, like a shadow, was her mother, Diane. You need to let her in, Diane said, voice sharp, eyes narrowed at me like I was the villain in the story. I held the door halfway open, the sunlight pouring over my shoulder. No thanks. Diane's lips pressed into a line. She lives here. I almost laughed. No, she doesn't. She's never lived here. This is my apartment. Her name isn't on the lease. She's been staying here as a guest, for 8 months. Issa's eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue but couldn't. Diane shoved forward, trying to edge past me, but I stepped back and kept the door firm. I'm not doing this. Not today. Not ever again. The silence that followed was thick. Issa's face crumpled, a mix of anger and pleading. Diane muttered something under her breath, grabbed her daughter by the arm, and pulled her away. I shut the door, locked it, leaned against it, my chest heaving like I'd just outrun something. But the storm wasn't over. That week, the stories spilled out like poison. Jake, Mr. Married Colleague, had been using company conference rooms for their trysts, booking them under fake client meetings. The details spread like wildfire through Issa's workplace until HR couldn't ignore it. He was fired for misuse of company property, along with a trail of falsified client dinner expenses that turned out to be dates with her. Issa wasn't spared. Her timesheets showed hours clocked in while she was nowhere near the office, leaving early to meet Jake, covering her lies with signatures that didn't match. She was fired too. Meanwhile, Bethany moved like a woman who'd been waiting for the final straw. She hired a divorce lawyer who knew exactly where to dig. Every dinner, every hotel charge, every dime of marital assets Jake had funneled into his affair was cataloged, presented, used. And the hammer fell. Bethany got the house. Primary custody of the baby once she was born. $1,800 a month in child support. $1,000 in alimony. Jake's beloved truck, gone, awarded to Bethany. He was 35 and moving back in with his mother. No job. No car. No wife. A child on the way he'd see every other weekend, if that. Issa wasn't doing much better. Her landlord discovered she hadn't been living in her apartment, violating her lease terms. 30 days to vacate. No job. No apartment. No car. She'd sold hers months ago because we didn't need 2 cars, babe. And me? I watched it all unfold like someone watching a fire from across the street, close enough to feel the heat, but far enough not to burn. The days after felt like living inside a storm that wouldn't move on. Every time I thought the thunder had rolled past, another wave of chaos broke over me. Issa didn't vanish quietly. She showed up again, 3 days later, pounding on my door so hard I thought the neighbors might call the cops. I didn't open. I stood just behind the door, my hand hovering near the knob, listening to her voice rise and fall like some twisted sermon. Please, just let me explain. You don't understand, it wasn't like that. Her fists thudded against the wood. I love you. Don't throw us away over one mistake. Baby, please. I'll change. I'll prove it to you. Her words were muffled by the barrier between us, but my chest still clenched. I closed my eyes, pressing my forehead against the cool wood, and waited. When she realized I wouldn't open, her tone shifted. You're pathetic. Hiding in there like a coward. Bethany's going to take Jake for everything, and it's your fault. Do you get that? You destroyed us. I didn't answer. Didn't even breathe loud enough for her to hear. Eventually, her voice cracked into sobs, and then silence. When I finally peeked through the peephole, she was gone. But it didn't stop there. At noon the following Saturday, the pounding came again. This time when I opened the door, Diane stood there beside her, arms crossed, eyes blazing. Issa hovered just behind, her face blotchy from tears but her posture defensive, like she was preparing for battle. You need to let her in, Diane snapped. I gripped the edge of the door. No, she doesn't live here. She never has. She's been here for 8 months. Diane shot back. That makes this her home too. I almost laughed. She's been staying here as a guest. That's not the same thing. Her name isn't on the lease. Legally, she doesn't exist here. Issa's face twisted, her lips parting like she wanted to argue, but the words never came. Maybe because she knew I was right. Maybe because even she couldn't spin a legal lie out of her situation. She made a mistake, Diane said, softer now, shifting tactics. Don't throw away everything over one bad night. One bad night. My voice shook, louder than I intended. She was at another man's house. A married man's house. At 3 a.m. And she thought she could use that to test me? Do you hear yourself? Issa stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. I was scared you didn't care anymore, I just wanted. No, the word came sharp, final. Don't spin this into my fault. Don't twist it into me not caring enough. You did this, Issa. You made this choice. Her mouth trembled, but no sound came out. Diane muttered something under her breath, grabbed her daughter by the elbow, and pulled her away. The slam of the stairwell door echoed in my chest long after they were gone. The social fallout came next. Mutual friends, or maybe I should say her friends, started circling like vultures. My phone lit up with numbers I didn't recognize, messages that dripped with judgment. How could you do that to Issa? She needed help and you betrayed her. You don't expose your partner like that. That's disgusting. For a minute, I almost let the guilt take root. Almost. But then I'd scroll back to the screenshots, the location pin she'd dropped like a grenade, the words she'd thrown at me like knives. A real man would come get his woman. I was testing you and you failed. Jake treats me better than you ever did. Those weren't the words of someone who needed saving. Those were the words of someone who thought she had me trapped. The truth was, the only person Issa had betrayed was herself. And Bethany. God, Bethany. I hadn't spoken to her since that single message. Thank you. But I thought about her constantly. I imagined her coming home from her shift, stomach heavy with a child she hadn't even met yet, stepping into a living room where her husband and my girlfriend sat with drinks in hand, laughter spilling into the air. I imagined the silence after. The way betrayal can drop into a room like a bomb, obliterating everything in its path. And I hated Issa for putting me in the position of being both the victim and the witness. Work, of course, didn't stay quiet for long. Word of Jake's firing spread fast, whispered in hallways, muttered over coffee machines. People love a scandal, especially one that involves someone else's downfall. The details leaked like a slow drip. Conference rooms booked under fake client names. Receipts for expensive dinners signed off as client development, but really date nights with Issa. HR combed through the records, line by line, until the picture was undeniable. Jake, the golden boy, the one who always bragged about his connections, his charm, his future, was out. And Issa? She followed not long after. Falsified timesheets. Hours logged she hadn't worked. Days she left early to meet him. No amount of tears could erase the digital trail. By the end of the month, both of them were unemployed. Meanwhile, Bethany's divorce lawyer carved Jake apart piece by piece. Every misuse of marital assets, every lie, every late-night expense that traced back to Issa became ammunition. Bethany didn't just win. She scorched the earth. House, custody, child support, alimony, even Jake's truck. He was left with nothing but the hollow shell of his pride, and a future where every paycheck would be sliced before he even touched it. Issa tried to spin it differently, of course. She showed up at my door again, sobbing, swearing she'd learned her lesson, swearing she wanted to rebuild. Her voice was raw, desperate. I don't have anywhere else to go, she whispered, her forehead pressed against my door. Please, just give me one more chance. I stood on the other side, silent, my hand flat against the wood. For a second, I almost gave in, almost opened the door. But then I remembered the text. I'm at Jake's house. Come pick me up right now or we're done. And I let the silence speak for me. If Act 3 was thunder, Act 4 was the flood that followed, the part where you stop counting the strikes and start measuring damage by water lines on the wall. Issa's life didn't just unravel. It caught on every rough edge on the way down. It started with the lease. Her landlord called me first, which says something about how deeply Issa had nested her chaos inside my life. A clipped voice on the other end of the phone. Has Issa been living with you? It was an accusation. It was a ledger balancing itself. She's been staying here, I said, each word slow and neat like I was writing on lined paper. Off and on, he repeated, like trying the taste. Her unit shows no utility usage for months, and neighbors say they haven't seen her. That violates terms. He sighed, the tired exhale of someone who has seen too many people invent their own loopholes. We'll be serving a 30-day notice to vacate. Okay, I said because there was nothing else to say. I hung up and stared out the kitchen window at a city that didn't care, the sky the color of drying concrete. It felt obscene somehow. That sunlight was allowed to lay itself across everything. Issa showed up that night to confirm what I already knew. He's kicking me out. No hello. No apology. She stood in the doorway with her duffel bag like a threat. You're happy now? I'm not anything, I said. I'm tired. She laughed, a sound that tried to be sharp but landed like a cough. I'm tired, she mimicked. You did this. You dragged Bethany into it. You torched Jake's life. You let everyone turn on me. I didn't put you in Jake's house at 3 a.m., I said, and that was the end of that. For a while, she tried the soft approach, the hour-long texts that read like essays, the voicemails she recorded at 2 a.m. when her voice went hoarse with crying. I messed up. I was scared. I thought you didn't love me anymore. She even sent photos of coffee cups on park benches, captions like starting over and day one of better as if Instagram could notarize a new self. When my silence didn't bend, she pivoted to anger again, then to bargaining, then to performance. The 5 stages, but all for me. Or maybe for herself. Meanwhile, I watched Jake's world turn into paperwork. Bethany's lawyer was a precision instrument, each motion filed like a scalpel cut. I got the updates secondhand at first. A friend who worked in the clerk's office, a cousin who heard from a cousin, and then directly from Bethany herself. Not long paragraphs. Little pings of fact. Preliminary hearing next week. He used the joint card for dinners at Nido every Thursday. We found the hotel charges. Each message landed like a stone tossed into a lake already rippling. At the judgment, Bethany didn't look triumphant. She looked like a winter tree, something stripped down and still standing anyway. The court awarded her the house. Primary custody when the baby arrived. $1,800 monthly in child support, $1,000 in alimony. The truck he polished every Sunday and posted in those thirsty car guy angles? Awarded to her. The judge read it all in a tone that implied gravity doesn't negotiate. Jake, 35 and unmoored, moved back in with his mother. I learned this from a mutual who couldn't help the note of relish in his voice. He's sleeping in his childhood room, the friend said, with the athlete posters still on the wall. I pictured the stale smell of old carpet and the way humiliation curls a grown man into angles that don't fit him anymore. Sundays, Jake's mother made him stand up during church prayer requests. For redemption from sin, the mutual added, barely keeping the glee out of it, as if other people's repentance could be televised. There's a special kind of quiet that comes from watching consequences take shape. Not loud, not flashy. The sound of a chair scraping back as the bill arrives. Issa's consequences were messier. Without a job or a lease or a car, she'd sold hers months ago with that breezy "we don't need two cars" babe. She ricocheted between couches and spare rooms, each place a little less welcoming than the last. Her friends posted less with her in frame. When they did, she hovered at the edges, a background extra in a story she didn't direct anymore. She came by one afternoon with a manila envelope held like an olive branch. "I want to show you something," she said. Her makeup was careful that day, matte and almost defiant. I didn't invite her in. I stepped into the hall, let the door close behind me. "I'm pregnant," she said. The hall seemed to tilt. The word pinged off plaster and echoed back hollow. I watched her face for the tell, the guilt smile, the tremor, and found only a performance almost good enough to pass. "Whose?" I asked. "That's not funny," she said, eyes shining. She handed me a photo, a plastic stick with 2 pink lines arranged like victorious flags. The resolution was suspiciously crisp, the lighting suspiciously styled, like an ad for a product you don't want to need. My stomach went cold, not fear exactly. Recognition. This was a lever she'd been planning to pull. "Take a test," I said and held out my palm. She flinched. "I already did." "That's the photo. Take one now," I repeated flat. "In my bathroom. With me outside the door. We'll go to a clinic after. We'll confirm blood. I'll support whatever is the truth." Issa's face did something complicated. Anger wearing grief's clothing. "You don't trust me. You sent me your location from another man's house at 3 in the morning and called it a test," I said. "No, Issa, I don't." She snatched the photo back and something in me, maybe pettier than I'd like to admit, wanted to see the trick. I stepped inside, grabbed my phone, and pulled up the image search. It took less than a minute. There it was, the same photo, down to the wood grain of the vanity and the lotion bottle blurred in the corner, pinned and repinned on a Pinterest pregnancy announcement board from 2019. I tilted the screen toward her. "Really?" For a second, she held her ground. Then her face crumpled, rage tearing through disbelief into humiliation. She lunged, grabbed the paper, and bolted. Down the hall, down the stairs, the slap of her shoes a childish beat. I didn't follow. The photo fluttered once, then disappeared around the landing like an old receipt. After that, the air changed. She stopped knocking. The texts tapered into silence, like a radio station you realize you don't miss until the static is gone. And yet, consequences kept unspooling elsewhere, like a spool rolling under furniture, the string catching on every leg. Jake took a job at a grocery store, the kind of place that layout memorizes your feet. I ran into him only once. Pure accident, the fluorescent wash of aisle 13. He looked thinner, the new uniform cheap enough to shine. He noticed me and froze, then tried for a smile that his mouth didn't believe. "You happy?" he asked. No greeting, just the accusation, stale and sharp. I looked at his name tag more than his face. "Happiness isn't what this is," I said. "This is math. What's that supposed to mean? You made choices. Now the numbers collect." He blinked at me like I'd spoken a dialect he almost recognized. "You ruined everything," he said again, but quieter, as if trying to convince himself, as if saying it softly might make it truer. I left my basket on a shelf and walked out. The doors whooshed open like a tired sigh. Later, a friend sent me a clip of his pastor sermon, the part where Jake was referenced indirectly, the cautionary tale whose details everyone knew anyway. Sin, redemption, the tidy arc that makes a room nod. I couldn't watch the whole thing. There's sanctimony and then there's theater. I didn't have patience for either. At night, sometimes, I lay awake and traced the geometry of what had happened. A triangle grafted onto a marriage. A circle of friends narrowing to a point. A line through my life where my before and after separated with surgical precision. I wasn't proud of everything. The late-night message to Bethany was equal parts fury and clarity. But I wasn't sorry either. There's a dignity in refusing to be drafted into someone else's lie. When Bethany went into labor, she didn't tell me until after. A text with a photo from the hospital, a swaddled bundle with a startled little face, all cheeks and possibility. "She's here," the message read. "Healthy." Then, a beat later, Victoria. I stared at the name until it stopped being letters and became the thing it was meant to do, declare a win without gloating. "Because I'm victorious," she added, and that should have been petty. It wasn't. It was a woman putting a flag back in ground that had been dug up under her. I typed back, "She's perfect. I'm proud of you." I deleted proud twice before letting it stand. Pride is complicated when you're only adjacent to the battle. But watching someone choose herself and then hold the line, that's a kind of courage that deserves witnesses. Word spread, as word does, that Jake's wages were being garnished. That he was doing math in the car on lunch breaks, the kind where you look at the numbers so long the screen burns your eyes. That the child support hit the account like clockwork, each deposit proof that time moves forward whether you do or not. And on certain Sundays, people prayed for him out loud, like redemption could be crowdsourced. Issa's epilogue came in fragments. A friend of a friend saw her leaving a temp agency, hair pulled back, expression the flat gray of a screensaver. Another said they spotted her on a bus, looking small in a way she'd never allowed herself to be before. She must have realized finally that charm is a currency, and some stores don't take it. There was one last attempt to hook me, a DM from a new account, the handle a clumsy alias. "Just wanted to say I forgive you." I didn't respond. I didn't need forgiveness from the person who lit the match and called my refusal to burn with her unromantic. I blocked the account and felt exactly nothing. I wish there were a more cinematic end to this act. A showdown on a rainy street, courtroom would polish to a doctor's office shine, a judge's gavel echoing like thunder. But collapse is rarely operatic. It's slow paperwork. It's a life getting smaller by inches. It's a woman running downstairs with a printed lie clenched in her fist. It's me washing a mug and realizing I no longer flinch when my phone vibrates in the night. On a Tuesday, I drove past the church where Jake's mother liked to have him stand. The lot was empty. The signage out front half changed. Goddess on the top line, the rest missing as if someone had stepped away mid-sentence. Sunlight lodged in the dust on the letters. I slowed and then kept going. The radio was off. The road made that steady white noise hum that feels like mercy when you're tired. At home, the apartment had new quiets. Space where Issa's shoes used to crowd the door. Drawers that slid shut without protest. I put a plant in the corner where her duffel used to live, one that asked very little of me and thrived anyway. I watered it once a week like a promise to myself. I can choose the things that don't hurt me. That night, I dreamed of a door I didn't open. Not out of fear. Out of practice. And when morning came, a pale gold that didn't apologize for being ordinary, I made coffee and didn't check my phone. The plant lifted its leaves toward the window. I stood there long enough to feel something shift, something unclench. Collapse had finished its work. What was left looked a lot like space. There's a quiet that comes after chaos, but it doesn't arrive like a sunrise. It creeps in, like dust settling after a demolition. You don't notice it until one morning you realize your chest isn't heavy anymore. For weeks, I woke expecting the buzz. Issa's number flashing, another tantrum, another ploy. But my phone stayed still. The silence felt foreign, then delicious. I filled the space she left with small rituals. Morning coffee on the balcony, watching strangers hurry below. Evening walks around the block with headphones in, not to drown out her noise but to feel my own thoughts again. A plant on the windowsill that leaned toward the light without asking me to prove my love at 3 a.m. And for the first time in months, my apartment felt like mine. Bethany and I spoke occasionally, not often, not in a way that invited lines to blur. Just enough. A text when the baby kicked so hard she lost her breath. A photo of the nursery painted soft yellow. Little things that told me she was rebuilding, too. When she sent me that hospital photo, her newborn swaddled and red-faced, I felt something break open in me. Not grief. Not jealousy. Relief. Victoria, she wrote. Because I'm victorious. And it didn't sound bitter. It sounded like reclamation. Like a woman writing her own ending on the skin of a new beginning. I whispered the name to myself, Victoria. A word that meant we survived. Jake, meanwhile, became a sermon illustration. The kind of man pastors used as a cautionary tale, his shame public and repeated every Sunday. A walking don't. And Issa, I don't know where she landed. Rumors floated. A couch here, a temp job there. Someone said they saw her in a bar, laughing too loud, pretending she still mattered in rooms where no one wanted to hold her secrets anymore. The last time she tried to reach me, it was with that fake forgiveness message. I forgive you. I laughed. Out loud, alone in my apartment. Forgiveness. As if I'd wronged her by refusing to clean up the wreckage she created. I blocked the account without hesitation. It was over. Not with fireworks or screaming matches. Over with the kind of finality you don't need to declare. You just live it. Looking back, the part that stays with me isn't the betrayal itself. It isn't the texts or the screenshots, or even the sick thrill of pressing send to Bethany in the middle of the night. It's the moment I said no. The moment I refused to play the game. When she told me I had 20 minutes to prove my love by dragging myself into another man's house, I realized the truth. Real love doesn't come with ultimatums. Real dignity doesn't come from competing for scraps. That night, I chose myself. And everything that followed, her unraveling, Jake's downfall, Bethany's victory, those were consequences. Not punishments, not revenge. Just gravity finally doing its job. Months later, I still sometimes wake at 3:14 a.m., the ghost of that buzz echoing in my chest. But instead of fear, I feel a kind of clarity. A reminder. I am not a test someone gets to administer. I am not a prop in another woman's marriage. I am not a vessel for someone else's lies. I am me. And for once, that's enough.